Ria, it's great to see you, especially because the last time I saw you was at Young Dundas Square.
Mm,
And you were performing on their showcase Friday nights there.
yep.
I was the host there. I got to introduce you. You tore it up. Crowd loved you. And then it seems like, after that, everything changed and the world changed. And now we're getting a chance to talk in a way that if we back then didn't know anything about this kind of
Yeah.
thing, wow, what a world changing. How are you since then? Because that's been a couple of years. And how you've
Yeah.
been dealing with this new world and, talking on Zoom.
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah, like I had never used Zoom before 2020. And now I use it all the time. But it's funny because I realized how many things you can do on Zoom that you don't need to travel for. Like, because musicians do a lot of like co-writes and collaborations. And in the past, I'd, leave home for a week and do 3 or 4 sessions in LA and come back. And now I'm like, oh, I could save the cost of a flight and, just so there's been some positives, but it's hard to be feeling like you're sitting still for so long. For me, I like moving around. I like every day to be different. And the last 2 years has not felt like that.
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, just before we did this, I did a workout and, came back, set this up to do it. And this is why I love Zoom because before, you and I would have to have met somewhere. I would
Yep.
have to bring my equipment over. I would have to set it
Yeah.
all up. We do the interview, then I have to tear it down. And
Yep.
this is just so much easier on the body and mind. But when it comes to your performances, yes, it's great to have Zoom and we can see it virtually, but there's
Mm.
nothing like seeing you live in person. Have you done any shows yet?
I've been sort of hiding out in Nova Scotia for a lot of this pandemic, and so they kind of locked everyone out, like really aggressively,
Yeah,
way more than the rest of Canada. And because of that, we had like 0 cases at one point. I think it was last summer and fall,
that's
and
right.
we started opening. So I was doing little theaters here, and we did a big show with Classified at the big arena in Halifax.
I
Like,
know the one you're talking about.
yeah, so it's in that way it's been good. We've had our own fake little bubble. Now they've sort of went the opposite way, and we're sort of no one here really had COVID. I know in Ontario everyone sort of got it last year, and but now it's hitting everyone. It's hitting everyone these last couple weeks here, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. So cross fingers, you're safe and everybody else is safe. No,
Yeah,
I
that's right.
remember that because I talked to a lot of artists and it was almost as if I came up there from Ontario and said, "Hey, I'm from Ontario," I always expect like a shh, don't you come
Yeah.
here.
Honestly,
Get out of here.
I drove my car here with all my like recording stuff and everything, and I had the Ontario plates. And I had to put a note on the back of my car because every day you'd hear about someone getting their windows smashed in, which is like not very Nova Scotian. I always brag that we're the nicest people. I'm like, we're like not the nicest people apparently. But everyone was so scared. So I had this little note on my car being like, I'm from here. I drove back. I've been here for months. Like, don't, like, go crazy.
But we still got great music from you, and that's one of the big reasons why we're talking here.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the other things that I've found with a lot of artists is the fact that they had to be very creative when it came to recording music,
Mm-hmm.
whether using Zoom, whether doing things from home, getting new apps. Amazon very busy in getting equipment and stuff too, and of course my favorite. The closet has become the
The
sound booth
booth.
for a lot
Yeah.
of people. What were you doing when it came to creating music?
Yeah, I had to put a bunch of these like sound panels up, and I won't show you the other side of my room because it's half packed up, but I have a corner where I've just created a booth because I don't have a separate room, a separate closet. But yeah, I've had to do a lot of my vocals from home, which I'm not, you wouldn't want me to do your vocals normally. Like, I would never volunteer to be like, oh, I'll do that from home. I have a good mic, but I'm not an engineer. It's not my brain. And I just had to be over the pandemic. So I think it's good though. It's an appreciation for what the professionals do because usually I go in and someone sets me up and I'm like, okay, let's get it started. Okay. I'll try the verse. Let's try the. And now I'm like, oh, that's really annoying. When I was asking to go from the bridge to the this to the this, I'm like, I get why Randy hates me now. Like I just so, but you have an appreciation for the things that you took for granted when you have to do them yourself. But also, like, I have a bit of pride in knowing that I can record if I have to, and it is, yeah, like you said, you get it's a creative feeling to see what you can do with just a few things, and I definitely felt creative for a lot of this. Yeah.
What about story wise when it came to writing music? And again, I've talked to a lot of artists about this. Before the pandemic, we looked at the world one way.
Hmm.
Because of all the things that we saw going right down from the US election to the shootings to just
Oh,
all of these things, the shutdown, things people were putting up on social media. Did the things that you wrote change from what you were writing in the past?
it's funny. It's when you listed those things, I'm like, wow, this pandemic feels even longer. Like I forgot about all of those things that happened during the pandemic. Yeah, I think for me, the big thing was I was writing a lot and had a bunch of music stored up before the pandemic. And then with everything happening, I was like, it's not relevant. It feels weird to just release my like dance track when, it's like every post is Black Lives Matters and George Floyd, and then just whatever the next thing. It's like, why am I gonna sing my love song? Does it like I had a lot of overthinking to be like, what and honestly like I went for months. I just went dark in terms of like I couldn't produce anything. Everything I had written seemed silly and not, you know and then I filled my brain up with everything that was going on, and now even if I'm writing a silly love song, it's like at least it's within the context of everything that's going on, like if that makes sense. At least
Yeah.
I'm in the world writing and not releasing something from 4 months ago being like, ah. But there was a lot of overthinking. I think a lot of people did that too. Like, how can you write a song about being angry at someone when there's a war in Ukraine? How can you write,
Yeah.
do you know? Like, there's a lot of that that I still grapple with, and it's hard to know what your role is as an artist. And I guess I had to remind myself that my role is to hopefully have a song that finds someone that needs it at that time, because we're all heartbroken over Ukraine. We all of all the issues that have happened, everyone's consumed with it, but you still have your own. You're still in a fight with your husband or wife, or your kid is sick. You still have your own personal issues. So I think I realized that my job is to just write what I write and hope it finds the person that it needs to.
Which is probably why the name of the new EP I think is perfect. So let's get right to it. What is the name of the new EP? And as I like to make it official, how does it represent you right now in the industry?
Yeah, I went through a lot of titles, but I ended up with Therapy because, um, there's a track on there called Therapy, but I feel like I've been through it this pandemic, and we've all been through it, and hopefully a lot of us have like exercised our minds and you know learned new ways to see both sides of things. The whole I just remember the whole vaccine. People are on both sides of how bad COVID is or how bad vaccines are, and I think we've all had to stretch our minds and just dig deeper, hopefully. And I feel like I've been through therapy, like in the good ways and the bad ways. And that's how I landed on that title.
I gotta tell you something. The old me. I want to talk about that
Mm.
one, not just lyrically, but the video itself, because it really reminded me of if David Bowie wrote a song and recorded a video today, if he was still alive, this is what he would have done. I thought it was so cool. Can you talk about the
That's
lyrics and the
cool.
video itself, please?
Yeah, so The Old Me was a song I wrote right at the end of the deadline for this EP. It's really about me coming home to Halifax and being confronted with these old relationships, like, not like romantic relationships, but people that you forgot about, that you don't keep in touch with. Maybe some of them like trigger something in you. You don't feel, you might feel confident, and then you run into this person, you walk away being like, ugh, I feel gross. And just all these old feelings that came up for me, and how I just didn't want to be reminded of that old version of myself that was kind of like, so, like just trying to keep everyone happy all the time. And so had this song, yeah, The Old Me, and I just didn't want to be, I just had a feeling I didn't want to be in it. I also didn't know COVID wise if I could travel to Toronto and be safe about it. I ended up making a small cameo in it, but it's just these two dancers, these twins in the video, they're twins. And one is like the confident self that's moving through the world, and the other one is like that voice of yourself behind you.
Oh,
That's kind of like, so they're far away, you're not thinking of the old, you're just in the moment. And then all of a sudden something happens and they're right there and you're wrestling, like, and everyone wrestles different. You might go to the gym, get rid of these thoughts, or you might drink alcohol, or you might just like listen to a fun song, like get like I don't want that memory, I don't want anything, and to me that's what it represents. Yeah, and that's definitely the feeling I've had of just like I don't want those old feelings to come up, I mean, I'm sure it's not always healthy to push them away, but if I'm being honest, I just don't want a lot of old stuff to come up.
I think a lot of us feel that way right now because we have been isolated. And I know I'll speak for myself, and I think a lot of people feel the same way.
Hmm.
Going through all these changes, you almost as if the isolation gave us a chance to reflect on our past, our present, and what we want in the future. So then once things started opening up and we started, like, for example, I know for myself, I ran into one or two people who maybe before the pandemic I couldn't stand.
Yeah.
But my thought was, I'm not going to do that. It's a
Mm,
new beginning.
yep.
Let me take a better approach to this. That's what I
Yeah.
think that song represents.
That's really cool. Yeah, and I think everyone has changed over this pandemic, so it is giving people a new chance, and also, yeah, it's funny we step out into the world now as new people.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, it's kind of beautiful now that you mention it.
Yeah, it very much is. Like I said, great track, great EP.
Thank you.
And I know things are supposed to be slowly opening up, and I know it's tough.
Hmm.
Um, any thoughts of, or are you gonna just wait and see how things go? Any thoughts of doing shows, touring? What's gonna happen?
So we're finally getting festivals, like summer festivals coming in, and also planning a fall tour. So fingers crossed, because I know that we went through this, I think it was end of 2020, people started booking tours thinking it was going to be over,
Yeah.
but so we are booking for summer and fall. The next few months is going to just be quiet for me. But then if everything goes well, fingers crossed, July and onward will be shows, and I'll be announcing some of them really soon.
And can I assume you're going to wait and see how things are? Because I know a lot of fans would love to come and take pictures with you and things like that. But again, you have to be safe. People have to be
Yeah,
safe. So I'm going to assume that
yeah.
we're going to wait and see before any, meet and greets or anything like that is going to be
Yeah,
happening.
it's interesting. I haven't even thought about that. That part's going to be a bit different, I think, because I wouldn't want to meet a bunch of people in person in one city and then go make everyone sick in another city.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know. Yeah, I think in that part of things might be a little bit different for sure, but
Fantastic.
we'll see.
No,
Yeah,
and you know what? That's the way we're in a new world.
yeah,
I mean,
we're in
who
a new
would have
world.
thought it? But I gotta say, it has been a pleasure always speaking with you. I still remember our first interview that we did, Canadian Music Week at the
Yes,
Radio Music
CMW.
Awards.
Yeah.
That's right. And, Juno's with the Juno nomination. And you have grown so much, not just artistically, but lyrically. This is a great representation of great future music. I cannot wait to see what you do also in the future. I'm curious though, are you ever thinking about doing and I know this is off the wall, but some kind of, I don't know, because watching this video, some kind of, I don't know, mini musical or mini, I don't know, something like, what they used to do back in the 70s when they make these operatic, music
Oh
pieces or
yeah,
whatever else.
that'd be
Honestly, I
fun.
can see you doing something like that in the future.
That's cool. I've thought about thinking about now different ways to do the live show that's a bit more theatrical and a bit more
Yeah,
story based. Um, but yeah, I love that idea too. I do think the last couple years has made me realize that like, not to take things so serious too and be like, and not to need to do things that other people are doing and just have fun with yeah, just have fun with art and be creative. And I think that's yeah, that's a cool idea actually.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait. Thank you again. Looking forward to seeing you when we can, but at
Yes.
least we got Zoom. Thank you again. Congrats on the new music and looking forward to everything you're doing in the future.
Awesome. Thanks. So nice to see you.